Bismillahi walhamdulillahi assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers. Today inshallah we will continue our study of Surah An-Nur and try our best to cover from ayah number 30 until 44. But just like every other class, before we start, let us go through the actions from the class. Yes, all of you guys to please go on mute. Okay, excellent. So very quickly going through the actions from our previous class. Allah SWT is our creator. He knows how we should operate, and we have discussed this multiple times. And Allah SWT is our creator. He sent us a guidance as our user manual, as a set of instructions for us to operate so that we can be successful. And this set of guidance came by the Holy Quran, by the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, our last prophet. And he explained to us via his hadith and the sunnah. So he also showed us examples. So we have to take this guidance really seriously if we want to be successful in this world. Then we went through the punishments. We know that Allah SWT has built in the desire between males and females, and there is a way that we need to fulfill this desire, which is via marriage and nikah. However, if people fulfill this desire in an illegal sexual intercourse, then there are punishments in line with what we went through in the last lesson. For unmarried male and female, and for married male and female, there are separate set of punishments. And these punishments should be given in public so that other people also take lesson from it and they don't do it. So we may think that individually, and people say this, oh, the punishments are so harsh and it's against human rights and all of these things. No, but actually they are protecting the vast number of people, because once you give severe punishment to people who are committing these major sins, then you are protecting rest of the society, and a lot of other people will not commit it. And then there is also the punishment that we learned for making false accusation against chaste women or women of good character. So there is also a punishment of giving them 80 lashes, and we went through all the details. And if you guys, those of you who missed the lesson last time, you can go through that lesson. And then, we also went through these days, we are discussing too much about people's personal lives, and somebody's having this affair and that affair, especially of the celebrities and all of that. So one of the actions that we took is we cannot forward, share, or talk about anyone's character unless we have 4 witnesses. And this is also came from directly, we read it in the Quran. And then the final action from last lesson was Allah SWT warned strongly against slandering of people of good character or spreading immorality. And we discussed this point also a lot in detail. So we should not expose ourselves or others to immorality so that we can avoid the painful punishment from Allah SWT. Now in the coming ayahs, inshallah, that we'll cover today, Allah SWT is also guiding us and giving us instructions on how we can protect ourselves from immorality. And we have discussed it, this topic has come in before as well, on how we should protect ourselves from shamefulness, from immorality. But here we will get some very nice guidance, and for that I will need your 100% attention throughout the lesson. So I hope it's clear. Let's move forward to today's lesson, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan, the outcast, the cursed one. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious and the most merciful. Apologies, this one should not come. Just a second. I forgot to remove this one. Yeah, now we are good. Okay, so starting from ayah number 30, today's lesson. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. Say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze and they should guard their chastity. So we will discuss this in detail. Now, there are 2 different set of instructions. One is coming to men, and then the believing men, and the other set of instructions we'll go through in ayah number 31 that will come for women. So right now we are going through the instruction for men in order to protect the moral fabric of the society and the morality overall in the society for the individuals as well as collectively for all of us. The instruction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to men is they should lower their gaze and they should guard their chastity, meaning their private parts. They should not get into illegal sexual acts that are not allowed. This is a major sin. This is zina, as we went through in the previous lesson. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. That is purer for them. That is better for them. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying it is purer for us and it is of better benefit for us, this means it is great for us in this life as well as in the hereafter. Inna Allah khabirum bima yasnaun. And indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what they do. Now, if you look at this ayah, there are three set of instructions. Number one is that men should lower their gaze and they should guard their private part. And this is obviously better for them. This is more pure for them. And finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what we are doing. So let's go through in detail of this. Now, before we get into the actual instructions in this ayah, I just want to zoom out a little bit. I just want to discuss the overall. So, the purpose of our creation, why have we been sent into this world, is the purpose of our creation is we are going through a test if we will follow the guidance or not, right? This is why we have been sent down. So, those people who follow the guidance and they do good deeds and they protect themselves from haram things, they are the ones who will be successful and they'll go to Jannah. Otherwise, those people who do not follow it will go to punishment, will get a severe punishment and they go to hellfire. Now, here the specific guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sharing is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built in a desire for opposite gender. Now, those of you who are younger and may not have reached the age of puberty, you may not understand it, but many of you guys, I'm sure you will understand what we are talking about. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built in this desire for opposite gender and has told us the halal way of fulfilling the desire. That is performing marriage or nikah. So this is the right Islamic way where a male and a female, they get into this relationship and then they can get into, then they can fulfill their desires via their spouse, via husband and wife. So Muhammad Hassan, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead. Is there a question?
Sir, what is this desire? Desire is what?
So desire means that's something that you want to do. So as you grow up, you have this desire for a physical contact between male and a female. So they go through this physical contact once they are married. And the ideal way of Islam is that you should be married. And that's how the couples get children as well, once they have performed this act. So basically, number one point is there is a strong need in your body. This is like a need that you want to fulfill this desire. And there is attraction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built between males and females. And with that attraction, and while you perform that physical act between a male and female, this is, so basically it also results in the productivity of human beings. And this is how children are also born after that act is being done. So it starts with the nikah, and then once a husband and wife are performing, have performed the nikah, then they can enter into this relationship that involves this physical act. There is a point in chat. Okay, so this is clear. Excellent. So now we are clear that we have to follow the guidance to be successful. And here the guidance is that we need to fulfill this desire via nikah. So this point is clear for everyone. Moving forward. Now, if we fulfill this desire without nikah, that is, we are getting into an illegal sexual intercourse, then it's called zina, which is a major sin. And in the last class, you guys remember, we already went through, and we just went through the actions from the previous class. There are severe punishments for people who commit zina, for both who are married people, and let's say they are, and somebody is married, and they do this with a man or a woman who is not her husband or wife, and they're still in marriage, but they do it with someone else, then this is a major sin. And let's say somebody is unmarried and they perform this act with someone whom they don't have a nikah with or they are not married with, right? So in both cases, for married and unmarried people, there were severe punishments that we saw already in the previous lesson. Now, this ayah is highlighting a very important point, that is how it can start the trigger and then how it may end in zina. And what do I mean by this start and finish? So this illegal relationship that we are talking about, it has trigger. It has, so what is that trigger? Let's understand this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, say to the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, which is their private parts. Lower their gaze means when you look at a woman, this desire gets formed inside you. Or when a woman looks at the men, we will see the instruction for women as well, as I said in the next ayah. But here I'm focusing on the instructions for believing men or for men. We have been asked to lower our gaze. This already tells us that, if we don't lower our gaze, or when we look at a woman or something, then this desire can be triggered. So this can be a trigger, gaze. And we will also discuss about this lower the gaze and the word gaze. That is very, very important. And then Allah SWT says, guard their chastity, meaning private parts. So when this physical contact or this physical intimacy is happening between a male and a female, this includes the contact between their private parts. And Allah SWT is saying, guard your private parts, meaning don't do any illegal sexual activity. You can only do it with your husband or with your wife when you are in a marriage or you have performed the nikah, when you are in that relationship. Everything outside of it is not allowed. So it starts from a simple thing that may look like, I'm just looking, or we are just looking. There's no harm, we're just looking. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, lower your gaze. Looking at a non-mahram male or a female is not allowed in Islam, as we can directly see that to lower our gaze from the intention of fulfilling that desire. From that intention, I'm not saying that you cannot look at a girl or you cannot look at a boy. Of course you can. But the point is, it should not trigger that desire and it should not instill that intention. So as much as possible, you have to lower your gaze. You have to protect, you have to guard your gaze. And then later on, obviously, you cannot enter into an illegal relationship by guarding your chastity. So you have to protect your private parts from entering into that relationship or that physical contact. So this can be seen as a start, the left side, looking, and the start and the trigger. And this thing can be seen as the last thing that we have to avoid, of course, if we are not in a formal nikah or marriage. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what they do. So these were the three main points in that ayah. Lower your gaze, don't perform that illegal act, guard your chastity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what they do. Because there are lots of waswasas from shaitan that comes into our head that, nobody is watching. You can do it. You're alone. You're in a room and nobody's looking at you, right? So when they're performing this act, obviously they're doing it in hiding. They're not telling the world that, yes, some people do. I mean, some of the celebrities, we are in an open relation, all of that, but they have gone beyond. But I'm talking about generally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what they do. Now let's discuss these things in detail. It is very, very important. Now, if you look at this statement, say to the believing men to lower their gaze, this means the desire is triggered by watching and gazing. And the word gaze, it doesn't say look. It doesn't say watch, it says gaze. Gazing means when you focus hard or something. When you are, in common terms between guys, I'm sure, I mean, those of you who are already in your teens and in college or university, the term checking out is very common. Check out the girl, So what exactly are you checking out in woman, right? Have you ever thought about it? Basically, you're looking at her body or her parts, right? That can instill those desires. So this is exactly what you're checking out. You're looking in closely. And anything can instill that desire. It can be the pretty face or the hair or the dressing that is hugging on her body. And then you see. So all of these things can trigger these desires. So which is why we have been asked to lower our gaze, right? And these days it is very easy. I mean, it's much more easier. You have social media. You have these websites where you can just go, you can watch, and you think nobody's watching. You're on your mobile. You're on your laptop, or you have your a tablet or whatever, and your parents are out, or you're at your friend's house, and you think that you guys are alone and you're doing and you're watching all of these things. So there are lots of digital ways these days. We have this, the challenge of lowering our gaze is in the palm of our hand, which is the devices that we have. So these devices that we have, the mobile phones and all of this, that the use of technology, we know is becoming a challenge for us to lower our gaze. So we have to be really, really careful that we are lowering our gaze. And these days there are lots of avenues, other avenues as well. I mean, it can be in a school or a university, it can be a party, it can be a farewell, it can be a graduation, and there are dances and all of these things that are happening these days, where boys and girls are together and they're having fun and they're enjoying and there is no harm. But the question that we need to ask is it helping us to lower our gaze? Right? So you may think like, no, 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 she's like my sister, or she's like my, or no, 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 we are very good friends, we are only friends, and we're just, no. The point is, you have to always ask this question: are you lowering your gaze? Is something really helping you to lower the gaze? This is a specific instruction that we just took out directly from Quran. The first point is to lower the gaze. And by the way, once we discuss the second ayah, I know there are lots of questions coming to your mind. Okay, but the females have been asked to cover themselves and everything. We will cover them in the next ayah. Right now, let's focus on men and what we have been asked. Then we will focus on women and what they have been asked. And then we will focus on the total picture. Why men and women have been separately asked and what we are supposed to do. So which is why if there are some questions coming to your mind, I would like you to hold on to them, and we will inshallah discuss them as we go through and as we close these topics. But right now, I want you to focus on what has already come in front of us as guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, where we as men or boys are being asked to lower the gaze. So what we have to do is, whenever we are looking at social media or whenever we are looking at all of these things, we have to make sure that we are lowering our gaze and we are taking our sight away from things, and we are not clicking on stuff we are not watching stuff that we are not supposed to watch. The other thing is, the last point of this ayah, as I said, so lower your gaze, guard your chastity. And then the last part is, and Allah SWT is aware of what they do. Shaitan's biggest ploy is you are alone and nobody is watching. And you're alone, might as well have some entertainment, might as well enjoy. Okay, there is a question that came, sir, what if it's your cousin and they are all covered in hijab, or it's not about, or it's not your cousin, but still she is in hijab? Listen, this is something for us to evaluate on individual cases. Here, we are discussing the general concept. Now, if a female is covered or if a female is not covered, the point is you should not check out them. You should not look at them. Still, you can have fellow co-workers, let's say females, or you have fellow students in your university and everything else, and you are meeting them in public and you're not engaging with them more than what you need to, right? And if you don't need to, you don't have to engage with them. You don't have to sit with them alone. We have specifically been asked not to be alone. Male and female should not be alone, and there are several hadith related to that as well. So it is very, very important that we understand the individual context. So the question that you're asking about your cousin who's in hijab and all of this, the point is we need to understand the concept. And as I said, let's hold on to the questions. Inshallah, once we clarify for a male the instruction, for a female the instruction, and collectively the instruction, then most of your questions will be answered, inshallah. Right now, I'm focusing on the first instruction that came for men: lower your gaze, guard your chastity, meaning your private parts, don't get into an act that you're not supposed to. And the third very important point related to these two is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what they do. So when shaitan puts in your mind that you're alone and nobody's watching, you have to disregard it. And you have to always consider that my life is being recorded and it will be replayed on the day of judgment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still watching me. So we are not alone. And yes, we have to be careful when we think or when shaitan is saying that you are alone. And so we have to protect ourselves from social media and all of these things. And terms like this, checking out and all of this, is not allowed. Moving forward, there is a video. I also shared in the class last time, and I just got reminded that I will send the link of this video to you guys as well. This was a video that we did earlier. Don't go near immoralities. Shaitan will pull you, but you can break free. So there are ways that even when you are getting this strong desire and while you are not in nikah or you cannot do marriage because you're still young, there are ways that you can break free. And we discussed all of this in this short video. Quran4teens, and you can find it on our YouTube. So I don't want to discuss all of those topics right now. I will move forward to ayah number 31, that is now giving instruction to females. And then we will go through those instructions, and eventually we will look at the total picture. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغُضْضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتُهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. And say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze. Just a second. Yeah. Say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze and they should guard their chastity and not to display their adornment or their beauty except what is apparent of it. For example, if they are tall, if they are short, this is clearly apparent. They cannot hide. And let them draw their head covers over their bosoms, meaning over their chest. And now we will see there is a Sahih Hadith that describes it even well. So if you look at the instructions given to the females, is they have to lower their gaze. Again, number one is they also have to lower their gaze. Number two, they should also guard their chastity, meaning protect their private parts. Don't get into those illegal sexual relationships that you're not supposed to. An additional statement that is given to females is not to display their beauty or adornment except what is apparent, and let them draw their head covers over their bosoms as well, meaning their chest. Now, this word, juyubihin, here, we will discuss it in detail in a hadith that is coming on what is the meaning. And I don't want you guys to be fixated on what does it mean. Does it mean, should I take the scarf or should I take the hijab or should I cover my eyes and should I cover all my hands and everything? You have to understand the concept. Here in this class, we are understanding the concept. The detailed guidance you can go after and look for from an Islamic scholar or a mufti or someone who's a specialist in these details. We will only try to go through the concept that is coming in Quran so that we understand what we are supposed to do, and then the details we can follow later. وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتِهُنَّ إِلَّا لِبُعُولَتِهِنَّ أو آبائهن أو آباء بعولتهن أو أبنائهن أو أبناء بعولتهن أو إخوانهن أو بني إخوانهن أو بني أخواتهن أو نسائهن أو ما ملكت أيمانهن أو التابعين غير أولي الإربة من الرجال أو الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء. Now this long part that I just read is giving them instructions. So we saw earlier that they're supposed to cover themselves properly, not to trigger that desire, right? And however, there are some exceptions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, because they cannot just completely get covered from everyone. So there is some exceptions as well. So for example, once they have gotten married, obviously they can reveal all of that beauty and adornment and everything to their husbands, of course, so that they can get into that relationship, physical relationship, as well as we talked about. So they're not supposed to display their beauty or adornment except to their husbands. So the husbands, obviously the beauty and this thing will be revealed to them by their wives, and then they will get into that relationship that we talked about, except to their husbands or their fathers. So they're not supposed to be that particular. So there's a guidance also for women that is for how they should cover themselves inside their homes, and there is a guidance how they should cover outside their homes. Again, this needs to be discussed in detail from a Islamic scholarly standpoint, or from a mufti or someone from an alim who have discussed these things in detail. All of these details are captured. Right now, we'll just go through the concept. For their fathers or the fathers of their husband, or their sons, or the sons of their husbands, or their brothers, or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or the woman of what they possess, so the slave women that they would be working with them, or the attendants, having no physical desire among the men. So if they could be that there are men who are serving these females, but they don't have physical desire, or something like, they have a physical defect that they cannot fulfill that desire. So it is okay if they don't completely cover themselves from them. Or the children who are not aware of the private aspects of the woman. So if they are very young children, then they're not supposed to cover themselves. I mean, they can be moderately covered, but they don't have to protect themselves, because obviously there is no desire amongst those children. وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَ بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ لِيُعْلَمَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنَّ. and not let them not stamp their feet to make known what they conceal of their adornment. So there can be some jewelry, there can be some beauty. So when they're walking, the women, they should take care that it should not reveal that they are wearing such things, so that it can also grab attention or it can attract men towards them. Sorry, I just got a couple of messages on chat. I will check. Add me in the group, add me in the group. Okay, fine. So a couple of you are asking to be added to the WhatsApp group. Sure, we will do that. Okay. And let them protect. So let them not reveal their beauty, whatever they are wearing, any adornment or any accessories that they are wearing. The intention is what? Not to attract attention. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Very, very important part of this ayah that we need to focus on. And turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all together, O believers, so that you may succeed. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say women. So when we started this discussion in ayah number 30, instructions came for men. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave instructions to women. The last part is saying, and return to Allah together, O believers, so that you may succeed. When men will follow all the instructions, when women will follow all the instructions, that's how we will succeed. It's not a competition, it's not a tit for tat. Now let's open all of this in detail for women, and then we will have a collective discussion as well. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any question. This is a very, very important discussion. If you have any question related to the concept that we are discussing, feel free to unmute, raise your hand, and you can ask the questions live in this class. Okay. So now we will go through the Sahih Hadith related to this ayah number 31 specifically. So let's focus on this. Then we will have the discussion about this ayah, and then we will conclude our actions. So related to this particular ayah, Sahih Hadith from Al-Bukhari, number 4758. And to draw their wheels, or they were all over their juyubihinna, that is their bodies, faces, necks, and bosoms, meaning their chest. So all of these things they need to cover. This is according to the explanation in Sahih Hadith Al-Bukhari, number 4758. And to draw their wheels, meaning to cover their juyubihinna, i.e., that is their bodies, faces, necks, and bosoms, and do not reveal their adornment, do not reveal their beauty. So all of these things are related to their beauty. Narrated Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow his mercy on the early immigrant woman. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed and to draw their wheels all over their juyubihinna, that is their bodies, faces, necks, and bosoms, they tore their muruts, a woolen dress or a waist binding cloth or an apron. So they used to wear like an apron that used to cover their waist that was coming on top. They tore it and covered their heads and faces with those torn muruts. So as soon, these are the people with high belief. They're believing so much, the ayah is getting revealed, and Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha is saying all the believing women who were there, they immediately took action. This is exactly how we should also operate. As soon as an instruction is giving us, if we are truly believing that this is guidance coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should immediately action. So this is what those females did. They had these cloths wrapped around and they took parts of it, they tore them, they tried to cover their heads and their faces immediately. This is how the instruction was coming down, and this is how the believing women were reacting. So this is an amazing, inspiring example for all of us, how we can be better practicing Muslims. We have a hand raised. Nuruddin, please, you have a question or a point? Go ahead.
Yes, sir, I have a question I would like to ask. As you know, that in Islam, a Muslim man allowed to marry 4 times. Is that right?
A lot of men are what?
In Islam, a Muslim man is allowed to marry 4 times. Is that right?
Yes. Muslim
but
man.
Why some people, some kings, some leaders have more than 4 marriages?
No. So at one point in time, you can have 4 wives. At one point in time. Now, the only exception to this rule was the Holy Prophet. Sorry, Nuruddin, if you could mute. There is some noise coming in. Sorry. So I will just answer, and if your question doesn't get answered, then you can ask me again. So the question is that how come some people can have more than 4 wives? So there are 2 answers. Number one, at one point in time, a Muslim can have 4 women in his nikah. This is the law, this is the Sharia law. Now, if you divorce someone, or if one of the wife dies, or you're separated from her in any way, then you can replace her with another wife. So you can have 4 at one point in time. The only exceptional rule on this one was for the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he kept more than 4 wives at one point in time. But there were other reasons, and there were reasons to teach us a lot of other lessons related to it. So that's the answer. Is this clear, Nuruddin? Please go ahead. You have your hand raised.
No, sir, this is not clear because if you know the Mughal Empire and a lot of other empires in the past, they married more than 4 times in one point, right? Like no one died and nothing happened. They just keep marrying to get the heirs and everything. So what do you say about that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the question correctly because of noise.
Yeah, I will put it in the chat.
If you can put it in the chat, I will be able to answer it. Thank you so much, because the voice is coming with a noise. The rule is clear. If you are a practicing Muslim, you can have only 4 wives in your nikah, in your marriage at one point in time. If somebody is not following that rule, then they are committing a sin and they will be accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is clear. I don't know if there was something else, a specific question. You can write it in the chat and then inshallah we can go through it. Okay, good.
I think I understood what he was trying to ask.
Yes, Aziz, go
I
ahead.
think what he was trying to ask is how rulers in the past, like Genghis Khan and all other Muslim rulers who had many, many different wives and they had like a lot of children. So like Muslim rulers who had many, many children which could have not come from only 4 wives. So he's asking, were they allowed more than 4, or how do they do that?
There are different explanations to that. One explanation, I'm just saying from a concept, all of us should be clear. So if this is a question, Nuruddin, thank you so much, Aziz. Jazakallah khairan for repeating the question. So if the question is that, yes, there were a lot of Muslim rulers who kept at one point in time more than one wife. I don't know what the reality was at that point in time. They could not have more than 4 in their nikah. But if they had women as slaves, let's say when they were fighting these wars and they were getting those, then there was a law that if you are in a war and you get some woman within that, then you can marry them to embed them in their culture and everything else. So it's not counted as a marriage, but you can still have them in your harem. However, if they were going beyond 4 wives, then definitely it's not in line with the guidance of Islam. And I don't know, I don't want to discuss individual cases because otherwise it will be a never-ending discussion. For us, from a concept standpoint, it should be clear. Yes, the Mughal empires and the emperor. Okay. Yeah, I think it's the same question. The point is, I don't know about individual acts of the Muslim rulers, and I don't want to discuss them. So we need to know the rule and follow the rule. So even if any Muslim ruler or somebody did it, that doesn't make it right. I don't know. The question is again, were they allowed to marry or they kept them as slaves? We don't know what was the case. Maybe they had taken some fatwa. Maybe they were, I don't know how they managed to do it. But the point is, for us today, as an action, what we need to focus on is that 4 wives are allowed at one point in time. And then if one of the wives passes away, or if you divorce or you get separated somehow, then you can replace. So that's the point. Anyways, we're not going into the details of that. Let's focus on the topic at hand that we have. Okay, so the point that we were going through was, as soon as this instruction came, the hadith from narrated by Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha was that the believing women immediately covered themselves up, and this is something inspiration for us. Now, narrated by Safiya bint Shayba, Aisha used to say, when the verse, and to draw their veils all over the Jubihinna, that is their bodies, faces, necks, and bosoms, were revealed, the ladies cut their waist sheets and the edges and covered their heads and faces with those cut pieces of cloth. This is narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari 4759, 4758, and 4759. Narrated Uqba bin Amr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, beware of entering upon the ladies. A man from the Ansar said, Allah's Messenger, what about al-hamu, meaning the in-laws of the wife. So meaning the husband's brother for the wife. What is the instruction? The brothers of her husband or his nephews, etc. The Prophet ﷺ replied, the in-laws, alhamu, of the wife are death itself. So they are like death for the wife. And why is that? We will read it in the explanation. It is mainly the brothers of the husband or the in-laws of the wife who are meant here, and there are only those who could have married that woman if she had not been married. So the reason why they are her mahram, or they became mahram, was because of her nikah with her husband, and they are his brothers, husband's brothers. So if she would not have married her husband, then they also could marry her as well, technically, right? Because they're not her real brothers, they're not her real fathers, or they don't have a blood relation with her. So from that angle, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that they need to be separated. The stay of a relative of a married woman in seclusion with her may cause great disadvantage and lead to illegal sexual intercourse that would ruin the family. Therefore, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam compared the brother-in-law of a wife to death if he stays in seclusion with her. This is very, very important. A man and a woman not related, not mahram, cannot stay together alone, because the shaitan can whisper to them and trigger their desire. This is why we have been asked not to get into a conversation, not to get into a meeting, not to connect with a non-mahram female in seclusion or when we are alone with them. So I hope this point is clear. Okay, moving forward. Now we will discuss the exact instructions given to females. Allah SWT says, say to the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, which is the private parts. So the starting point is the gaze, that can be seen as a trigger, and finish is what what you can end up with, which is zina or something illegal sexual act that you're not allowed to. So which is why Allah SWT is saying lower their gaze, guard their chastity, which is their private parts. Very, very important. And the second instruction that came additional to women, that was not given at least to men. Of course, we are supposed to cover our satar, and there are instructions for men to cover properly as well. But women were told cover themselves to not trigger desire. We have to always understand this objective. They have to cover themselves. And the explanation that we saw was that they have to cover their faces, their heads, their bodies, and everything, as we saw in the Sahih Hadith. And return to Allah SWT altogether so you may succeed. So this is about everyone, men and women. So first the instructions to men came, then instructions to women came, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so that you may all succeed. Let's go quickly to cover themselves. Say to the believing women to cover themselves to not trigger desire. There are elements of beauty, there are elements of attraction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built in women that are attractive for males. And that's how actually this entire production and reproduction cycle is going. There's a strong desire between male and female. They enter into a nikah, they perform the marriage, they do that physical act. After that, children are, they are born. And that's how the entire race and humankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, continues to grow in this world. So this is the process. But the thing is, you cannot let this desire just go wild. And you cannot just say that, I will fulfill it with everyone and all of that. That is animal kingdom behavior. What we have been told is you have to have marriage and you have to get into a nikah. That is the right thing. Now, the objective for females is to hide their beauty and any trigger that can cause, of course, other than from their husbands, because husband and wife are supposed to have that relationship. So there is nothing to hide between them. But the point here is for other than your husbands, that you're supposed to cover and protect your beauty. Now, shaitan, sorry, this is a typo. Shaitan's whispers. What does the shaitan whisper to us? Sorry. Yeah. Shaitan's whisper is, why don't men lower the gaze? So when the female, is thinking in her head, shaitan goes and says, why do you have to hide and cover yourself? You're just dressed okay. I mean, it's okay. I mean, if you're wearing a t-shirt or a top or something, and if it is slightly, or you're not covering your face or you're not covering. So the shaitan's point to the female and the whisper is, why don't men lower their gaze? I'm doing it for myself. I'm trying to, look beautiful, I'm doing this makeup, I'm using cosmetics for myself, I can walk out. Men should lower their gaze. Why should I care about perverts? The word perverts here means people with evil thinking, with ill thinking, with negative thoughts. So there's a question that came: stoning to death is for husband and wife, but if they cheat after being married with another girl or boy, yes, you're right. So that instruction, stoning to death, came for married males and females if they do perform this act with someone outside of marriage, right? But if they do it together, of course, I mean, this is the halal way. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so shaitan will whisper to females, why don't men lower the gaze? Why do I have to cover myself? If they lower the gaze, problem is solved. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically said to females to cover themselves, not to trigger their desire. And then females and shaitan can also say, I'm doing it for myself. So the female can think, I do it for myself. I want to look beautiful. This is, and I want to walk out like this. Why should I care about perverts? Why should I care about people who are mentally ill and they will anyways look and gaze at women and all of this? They're not taking instructions. So why should I care about them? So all of these things shaitan will put there in their head. The point to understand for females is that we are accountable for our own deeds individually. And when we see instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to follow them. There is a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala separated both the instructions. Yes, it is true. First, men have been said to lower their gaze, to guard their chastity, and to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching them. Then in the right after that ayah, the women have been told, lower your gaze, guard your chastity, protect your private parts, and then cover yourself. It has been told. So as an individual, you have to follow the guidance regardless of what anyone else is doing. Don't let shaitan put these whispers in your mind. Okay? And then because we have to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so that you may succeed. This is the last part. Now you have seen the instruction for men. You have seen the instruction for women. And it concludes with this part, this beautiful ending that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all together so that you may succeed. If men follow the instructions, if women follow the instructions, then collectively as a society, we can succeed. We can protect our morality. We can stop from immorality. We can stop the whispers of shaitan. So I hope this point is clear. There are some comments. Sir, what if it's your this is we saw about this one. Stoning to death we read. Sir, I have a question. If they're married, if they perform act, then there's no punishment for them because they're born kids until they do it with any. Yes, this is correct. So if they're married, they can within themselves, husband and wife, they can do it. If a woman watch a lecture on social media and she looks at the opposite gender, then should we lower our gaze at that point as well? The point is, it's a question that just came. If a woman watches a lecture on social media and she looks at the opposite gender, then should we lower our gaze? Again, it also depends on the intention. Ideally, you should not be looking. It's fine. In that case, yes. The point is, the more you can protect yourself, because if you tell me, if I get on my car outside of the road and I'm driving, obviously I have to look in the front and everything else, and somebody can come in crossing. Of course you can. You have to protect them. It wasn't like I was lower my gaze and I just got into an accident. And the guy comes in and you're trying to explain to insurance company that I was lowering my gaze. There was a female driving in front of me. It's not like that. The point is we need to understand the core objective of this instruction. We have been asked to lower our gaze, not to incite that desire. We can go in public. If we are in a public place, it's okay. There is nothing that we can do. I mean, there's no wrong thing generally. Of course, you cannot say that I'm in a party now and everybody's dancing and, we are having fun and we are in public. We are not alone. So is this allowed? So, of course, we need to understand that can also instill a lot of desires, and it's not allowed because females are supposed to cover themselves and men are supposed to lower the gaze. For only essential stuff, for work, for going out for certain things, of course, it is okay that you have a look. And there are hadith also present where it is said that don't have a second look, because the second look can have that evil intention and you can gaze and you can gaze and you can you may be checking out someone. But the point is also on the intention and what it does to you. If something is triggering your desire and they are not your husband or wife and you're not in that relationship, then you're supposed to avoid it. So we are supposed to check for ourselves. We need to understand the concept over here. So, and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so that you may exceed. There are several points that we can discuss here. Now, if we look at the final thing. So the first thing is men are supposed to lower their gaze and they are supposed to guard their chastity, meaning their private parts, not get into an act. Lower the gaze, and then the end thing is don't perform zina and protect your private parts. Obviously, from within a husband-wife relationship, that is the way, that is the halal way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you always, so you're never alone, right? So this was the instruction for men. For women, it was lower your gaze, guard your chastity and your private parts, don't get into that illegal relationship, and cover yourselves and return. And then after these instructions, return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so you may succeed. It is not a competition. I wanted to highlight this point. It is very, very important. A lot of the time, multiple discussions are happening is tell the boy to lower the gaze. And the boys are saying, tell the girl to cover herself. This is not about it. It's not that if the girl, let's say, is wearing revealing clothes or she's showing her beauty, then I will watch. Why is she showing? Is she showing she's available? All of these thoughts are coming from shaitan, guys. If a girl is revealing clothes, it's my duty to check her out. That means she is available. That means, you know, she is of bad character, so we can definitely watch her. She's not, anyway, she's not a good character. She's just watching, walking out of the house in such revealing clothes. So that means she's asking to be watched. While the girl is thinking, no, they should lower the gaze. It's not a competition. All of us will go in our own graves. We have to protect ourselves, which is why we have to understand all the instructions in totality and how beautifully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ending it with this statement. And return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so that you may succeed. Instructions given to men, instructions given to women, both of them following them to the best of their capability. And then based on our individual context and our intentions, like everything else in this world, that we will be judged individually in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this case will also be judged individually. Even if you were thrown things in front of you on social media, did you lower your gaze? Did you overcome the urge not to click on a certain link that you are not supposed to click? Did you overcome the urge of, you got a picture from your friend or a video from your friend who always shares with you or on the group shameful stuff? Did you stop your urge not to watch it? Did you stop your urge not to do it? As a female, you know, you wanted to really wear that dress, but then it is showing your beauty or it is not covering you properly, and then you went out in that dress. So these are the things that individually we are all accountable for. But as a law and as a rule, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sharing instructions for men, sharing instructions for women, and then telling us collectively, all of us will have to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all together so that we may succeed. So the statements written in yellow in front of you are things that are waswasa from shaitan. These are the challenges that we have to overcome. Checking out girls, looking at girls, gazing at them, discussing their body parts, and all of this between boys. It's very common. And it happens in schools, in college, university, in workplaces. People are doing it day in, day night. But then they think, oh, this is not zina. No, you were supposed to lower the gaze. You forgot about it. That was the starting point. That was the first instruction. Lower your gaze and then protect your private parts. So if you look at these yellow statements, if a person smiles at me, then it means they are interested. I need to talk to them. I need to send them a private message. I need to start a conversation with them. Let me have a boyfriend or a girlfriend because all my friends have them. I need to be in a relationship. These things are not complying with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance is for us. You're not supposed to be in a relationship without nikah. You're not supposed to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend without nikah or that. You're supposed to enter into a marriage and a nikah, and you will see this is the course of action. Now, we can ask, so what is the next step? What are we supposed to do? Now we understand, yes, we have to lower our gaze, we have to guard our private parts, we have to cover ourselves for the females and everything, right? So we are understanding this set of instructions. But how are we supposed to fulfill the desire? We are supposed to fulfill the desire via nikah, and this is coming in the following ayahs. Until then, we are supposed to protect our chastity. We are supposed to guard our desire. We are supposed to tame our desire, right? So the last part that you see on the bottom of the slide, regardless of what others are doing, we have to follow the guidance. we have to follow the guidance. Both men and women have been told, lower your gaze, guard your chastity and private parts. You cannot be a female or a male dancing on, these social media and wearing such clothes that you're not supposed to, inciting others. You have to protect. You cannot show your beauty as a female. You have to lower your gaze as a male. Combine all of these instruction, guys, and you will understand the objective and what we are supposed to do. You will automatically get the answer. If you have a pretty face and if you're a female, you need to cover it, because that can trigger somebody's desire for you as well. Because people get into these discussions day in, day out. Are we supposed to cover the face or take a hijab or take a this and these details? You can see all the discussions and all the instructions and Sharia law with any Islamic scholar or a mufti, and you can get fatwas, and all of those details are there. I want you to understand the concept. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking us to protect us from the major sin of zina? And this starts from lowering the gaze for all of us, guarding our chastity, and for females to cover themselves up. The objective, you need to understand the objective of covering yourself, which is not to attract the other person. If that means lowering your voice or hiding your voice, or that means covering your face or covering your head or covering whatever, or dressing modestly, you need to understand the concept. There is a hand raised by Nuruddin.
Yes, sir. Please see the chat.
Yes, so you're saying we only have 10 minutes left, so we can increase that. Yeah, we will see. We will see how we are going. But this is the culmination of this discussion. Are there any questions, any comment related to these points that we have discussed? Because this was the final conclusion before I move forward. I hope the points are clear related to the instruction for men, instruction for women, and overall totality, how we need to protect ourselves. And these are only some of the trigger points. I'm sure you guys are faced with such situations, and we can discuss them on WhatsApp as well, or later on if you guys have anything else. Anyways, right now I will move forward with the class. As Nuruddin said, we have 10 minutes left, so let's try to increase the pace. وَأَنْكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ. So this is what we are supposed to do. And marry the single among you and the righteous among your male slaves and your female slaves. So marry the single people. Put them in nikah, put them in marriage, so that they can fulfill their desires. This is the number one and the only solution for this previous things, everything that we discussed. Marry the singles amongst you and the righteous, and also the slaves. Those the point in time, people used to have young male slaves and young female slaves as well. So marry your slaves as well. In yakunu fuqara'a yughnihimullahu min fazli. And if they are poor, Allah will enrich from them from his bounty. If they're poor, they're not supposed to, then marry them. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them rizq together. If they have children as a result of this relationship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enrich them in bounty. Wallahu wasi'un alim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all encompassing, all knowing. وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا حَتَّى يُغْنِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And let me chastise those who do not find means for marriage until Allah enriches them from his bounty. You're supposed to protect yourself unless you get into that relationship or you are married. You're supposed to protect yourself. You're not supposed to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a relationship or this, that. You're supposed to protect yourself. Until and unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets you into nikah and fulfills, because this is a bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These days, people delay nikah and marriages for reasons that are not right, for worldly reasons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not, there is no compulsion from Islamic standpoint. We have to get married as early as possible. This is a bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ يَبْتَغُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. And those who seek the writing from those whom possess your right hands, and give them the writing, and if you know, let them in them any good. So basically, this is about the slaves. If your slaves want to get free, this was for that time when people used to have those slaves. If they want to get free, make them free. And if you believe that they can be good and individually they can perform, وَآتُوهُمْ مِنْ مَالِ اللَّهِ الَّذِي آتَاكُمْ. And give them from the wealth of Allah, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. So free the slaves, give them some wealth so that they can start their families, they can start their households. وَلَا تُكْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ alal bigha'i in aradan tahassunan litabtaghu arad al-hayat ad-dunya. And do not compel your slave girls to prostitution if they desire chastity, that they may seek temporary gain of the life of the world. So what used to happen is some of the slave girls at that point in time, they were forced into prostitution, meaning having for money, they used to get this into a relationship with a person that they don't know, and people used to earn money via their slave girls. Allah SWT is saying, if they want to protect their chastity, don't do this. Stop these practices. Stop all of these practices. Sir, what is the meaning? There's a question that came. What is the meaning of chaste? Chaste means to protect, to stay pure and to protect your private parts, to not get into any illegal sexual act, to protect yourself, being chaste, being pure. So not committing the sin that we are talking about here. So you have to be chaste. This is what that means, to protect yourself. And to follow the instructions as we went through, lower your gaze, guard your chastity, meaning protect your private parts and all of that. So do not compel your slave girls for prostitution. وَمَن يُكْرِهِنَّ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مِن بَعْدِ إِكْرَاهِهِنَّ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And whoever compels them, then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after their compulsion is forgiving and merciful. So those people who will compel or force their female slaves to get into those relationships that they don't want to, and they are forced to do it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive those females, and of course their owners will be held accountable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built-in desire for opposite gender, and this is the action that came from this ayah. If you look at the start of this ayah, we said, and marry the single amongst you, even if they are independent. And for that time when they used to have slaves, of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given instruction, get them married as well. So the core action here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built in desire for this opposite gender between male and females. The right way of fulfilling this desire is via marriage, nikah, you get children, and that's how human race continues to evolve. But while you cannot have nikah, you are supposed to protect yourself, lower your gaze, and guard your chastity. وَلَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ آيَاتٍ مُبَيِّنَاتٍ وَمَثَلًا مِنَ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And verily we have sent down to you verses clear and an example of those who passed away before you, and an admonition for those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this is coming as a warning for people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu nurus samawati wal ard. The name of this ayah, Surah An-Nur. Allahu nurus samawati wal ard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the light of the heavens and the earth. Masalu nurihi kamishkatin fiha misbah. The example of his light is like a niche in it in a lamp. So when you light a lamp, it removes all darkness. This is how light operates overall. This is the attribute of light. It removes darkness. Al-misbahu fi zujaja. The lamp is in a glass. Az-zujajatu ka'annaha kawkabun durriyyun yuqadu min shajaratin mubarakatin zaytunatin la sharqiyyatin wala gharbiyya. So here is the example of a lamp. So this light is like a lamp, and the lamp is in a glass. The glass is it were a brilliantly lit star from a blessed olive tree, and not of the east and not of the west. So nothing like that you have seen from ever before. So it's the most beautiful, the most precious light that you can ever imagine. Yakadu zaytuha yuzi'u walau lam tamsashu nar. Its oil would almost glow even if it is not touched by fire. So it doesn't need the fire to even touch it. It will almost, the light would glow by itself. Nurun ala nur, light upon light. Yahdillahu li nurihi man yasha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides to this light whom he wills, meaning the guidance. The guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides. After giving all the instructions, all the guidance, we should, when we are going through this guidance, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us on the right path, to enable us to follow the guidance. It's not easy. It's not easy to lower the gaze. It's not, because especially today, everything is getting thrown on our faces. We should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, to help us follow the guidance that he's sending. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides the one whom he wills to guide. So which is why we need to seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala his guidance. وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. And Allah set forth the examples to the mankind. وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And Allah SWT is all knower of everything that we do. Last 4 ayahs of today, I will just take 5-6 minutes on top, inshallah. فِي بِيُوتٍ أَذِنَ اللَّهُ أَن تُرْفَعَ وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ فِيهَا بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. In houses which Allah SWT has ordered that they be raised and be mentioned in them His name, glorify to Him in them in the morning and in the evening. So there are houses that are dedicated for the worship of Allah SWT, as we know them as masajid or mosques. So these are Allah SWT houses. This is where we are supposed to enter and pray and glorify Him during the mornings and in the evenings. There is a related hadith, Sahih Hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I want us to go through. Narrated Abu Qatada radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if any one of you enters a mosque, he should pray 2 rakats, tahit al-masjid, before sitting. This is a sunnah of the Holy Prophet as well. When you are entering into a mosque and there is time before the first prayer is about to start, you are supposed to pray 2 rakat as tahit al-masjid. When you are entering into that masjid, 2 rakat, it's a simple nafil rakat that you can pray, and you can pray any surah in between. Narrated Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this is a beautiful hadith about praying in congregation in a mosque for men. I want you guys to carefully listen. The reward of the salat prayer offered by a person in congregation, meaning in Jamaat, is multiplied 25 times. 25 times. If you're praying alone in your house, or if you are going to the masjid, to a congregation, and you're praying inside in a masjid with all the other people, then the multiplier is 25 times more, right? As much that of a salah prayer offered in one's house or in the market alone. So let's say you're working in the market. Those days people used to work in market. These days people are working in offices and all. Let's say you're just praying alone. Then praying alone versus praying in congregation, 25 times more. And this is because, why is this? And this is because if he performs ablution, makes wudu and does it perfectly, then proceeds to the mosque with the sole intention of praying, then for every step he takes towards the mosque, he is upgraded 1 degree in reward. And one of his sins is taken off, crossed out from his accounts of deeds. When he offers his salat prayer, the angels keep on asking Allah's blessings and Allah's forgiveness for him. As long as he's staying at his musalla place of prayer, then they say, oh Allah, bestow your blessings upon him, be merciful and kind to him. And one is regarded in salat prayer as long as one is waiting for the salat prayer as well. If you reach the mosque and you are waiting for the prayer, the angels will continue to say this, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and continue to pray for you, bestow your blessings upon him, be merciful and kind to him. And this is because you were busy in work, you were busy in home, yet you found time to go to the mosque. Every step you're taking, you're doing this special task or deed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is why there is so much reward for praying in congregation. So this is a key action for us. When you enter a mosque, pray 2 rakats, tahit al-masjid. As we said, it's like a nafil prayer that you do. And then reward for praying in congregation in a mosque versus praying it alone at home or at work is 25 times. So we should definitely pray in a masjid. Rijalullah. Sorry. So just quickly going through this. Rijalullah tulhihim tijaratun wala bay'un an dhikrillahi wa iqamis salati wa ita'iz zakah. Men do not distracts them trade and not sale from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from establishing the prayer and giving zakat. Yakhafuna yawman tataqallabu fihi al-qulubu wal absar. They fear a day will turn about therein the hearts and the eyes. So those people who are fearful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their trade, their work, or any other activity will not distract them from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is very, very important for them to keep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that they establish their prayers, they give zakat, and they fear the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable, and the hearts and the eyes will be, they will be turning, and they will be knowing the truth, and they will be almost knowing what's happening, and truth will be revealed to them. لِيَجْزِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنَ مَا عَمِلُوا وَيَزِيدَهُم min fazli. Wallahu yarzuqu man yasha'u bighayri hisab. That may Allah reward them with the best of what they did and increase them from His bounty. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides whom He wills without measure. I just saw there are chats messages. I'll just go through quickly. Dua for guidance. Yes. She is a girl and do just good deeds and pray for her. Guys, please avoid chat that is not related to the topic. Thank you so much. Moving forward. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بِقِيَّةٍ يَحْسَبُهُ ظَمْآنُ مَاءً. But those who disbelieve, their deeds are like a mirage in a lowland, thinks the thirsty one to be water. Those people who disbelieve, even when they're doing good deeds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying their deeds are not real. A mirage in a desert is like, when you are at a distance, when you look at it at a desert, it seems like the shadow and there's an impression that there is water. So the person thinks like there is real water. So a person who performs good deeds without being a believer, he thinks he's doing good deeds. But it is in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're not a believer, then these deeds will not benefit you in the hereafter. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, but those who disbelieve, their deeds are like a mirage in a lowland. The thirsty person thinks that it is like real water. Hatta iza ja'ahu lam yajidhu shay'an wa wajada Allah indahu fawaffahu hisaba wallahu sari'ul hisab. Until when he comes to it, he does not find it to be anything, but he finds Allah before him. He will pay him in full his due. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swift in the account. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very fast in holding people accountable. So a person may think that they're doing very good deeds on the day of judgment, or when they die, the truth will come in front of them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold them accountable. So a disbeliever who is even doing good deeds, their deeds will not be counted. And this is an explanation that is there in the Tafsir Kalam. The deeds of a disbeliever are like a mirage for a thirsty person. When he will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will think that he has done good reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of his good deeds. But he will find nothing like a mirage, and he will be thrown in the fire of hell. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from fire of hell, and may our good deeds reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may He accept them. Ameen. Last ayah for today. أَوْ كَظُلُمَاتٍ في بحر لجي يغشاه موج من فوقه سحاب. Or it's like the darkness in a deep sea that covers a wave on it, a cloud. Zulumatum ba'zuha fawqa ba'az, darkness, some of it on others. So it's like a dark sea, and there's darkness over darkness over darkness. Iza akhraja yadahu lam yakad yaraha. When he puts out his hand, hardly he can see it. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُور. And for him a light, then not for him is any light. So basically it looks like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for him a light, then not for him there is any light. So basically it's like when you're trying to find in darkness something that there is darkness upon darkness, you won't be able to look at it. So while the person will be thinking that there is some hope, there is some light, there is some acceptance of a deeds, that those won't be accepted because the person was not believing. Alam tara anna Allah yusabbihu lahu min fis samawati wal ardi wat tayru saffat. Do not you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala glorify him, whoever is in the heavens and the earth, and the birds with wings outspread. All the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kullun qad alima salatahu wa tasbiha. Each one is verily known its prayer and its glorification. They continue to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu alimun bima yaf'alun. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all near of what they do. Walillahi mulku samawati wal ard wa ilallahi al-masir. And to Allah belongs the dominion and the heavens and the earth, and to Allah is the destination. Everyone will return to Him. Alam tara anna Allah yusji sahaban summa yu'allifu baynahu summa yaj'aluhu rukaman فَتَرَى الْوَدْقَ يَخْرُجُ مِنْ خِلَاهِ. Do not you see that Allah SWT drives the clouds and joins between them, then makes them into a mass, then you see the rain come forth from their midst. The entire water cycle, how it becomes vapors, condenses into becomes a cloud, then condenses and rain happens. وَيُنَزِّلُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ جِبَالٍ فِيهَا مِنْ بَرَدٍ فَيُصِيبُ بِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَصْرِفُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. And then he sends down from the sky, from the mountains within it is hail. He strikes with it whom he wills and adverts from whom he wills. The lightning, we know it falls by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yakadu sana barqihi yazhabu bil absar. Nearly the flash of its lightning takes away the sight, and you cannot even see. It comes like so fast, and then it burns whatever is below. Last ayah for today. Yuqallibu Allahu al-layla wan nahar. Allah alternates the night and the day. Inna fi zalika la ibratan li ulil absar. Surely there is a lesson for those who have vision. If you look, if you observe, all these are signs of Allah. The perfect system, the water cycle, the rain, the changing of the night and the day, the rotations, the orbiting of the sun and the moon, all of this has signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This marks the end of today's lesson. We will quickly go through the actions. Sorry, sir, there's a question. What is the meaning of being accountable? Okay. Okay, the question is, what is the meaning of being accountable? Accountable means when you hold someone for the deeds that they do, when you ask them. Accountability is like, okay, you were supposed to do something. We are supposed to follow the guidance. Now we have seen the instructions and we don't do it. So it cannot be that fine, so we cannot do it and no one will ask us about it. So on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable, meaning we will be asked, what did we do? The guidance reached us, but we did not follow. Why? So there will be questioning done from us. This is the meaning of being accountable. You have been given a task and you will be asked if you did it or not. You have been given an instruction. You will be asked if you followed it or not. This is the meaning of being held accountable. Every person in this world will be held accountable on the day of judgment. Okay, excellent. This is clear. Very quickly, we will go through the key actions from today's class, and there were some very, very important actions that we went through. There were instructions given to men, there were instructions given to women, and there was a collective conclusion that we made. So the instruction given to men were to lower their gaze, guard their chastity, meaning their private parts, don't get into illegal sexual act. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what they do. So this is a starting point, the lowering of the gaze. When you look, this can trigger, this can start the desire for the opposite gender. So men have been asked to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. And while shaitan puts this waswasa that you're alone and all of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what they do. So they should not think that we are alone or whatever and they commit the acts that they're not supposed to do. We have had a detailed discussion on this in this class. And definitely if somebody wants to overgo that discussion, they can see the recording. Again, the instruction for women, say to the believing woman to lower their gaze, guard their chastity, meaning their private parts, and additionally cover themselves not to trigger their desire. And we went through again a lot of details on covering themselves and how shaitan puts this waswasa. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether so that you may succeed. Which is why men have to play a role, women have to play a role, and together we have to succeed. And while if somebody is not doing that, let's say a man is not lowering the gaze, the female cannot say, ask him to lower the gaze. I will wear whatever I want. I will go whatever I want. No. And the male cannot say, because she is not covering herself, so I can watch her and she maybe, this is so she's up for watching and she wants to attract attention. It's not my fault. I am just gazing her and I'm checking her out. No, this is not the case. It's not a competition. It's not tit for tat. You, all of us individually, we go to our graves. We are accountable for our individual actions. Men have to look at the instructions given to them. Women have to look at the instructions given to them. All of them have to individually follow, and collectively as a society, we can be successful. All of us have to go together to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are answerable individually for our acts. So for the women covering themselves, they have to understand the intention. While, I mean, there are lots of debates on should we cover the face and cover the hair and cover the body and what does it mean and what does that word mean. So basically the point is you cannot attract opposite gender's attention. So if you have a pretty face or you have attractive face, cover yourself so that you don't attract that attention. That is the core of it. Now the solution given to us for this desire that Allah SWT has given, which is a built-in desire for the opposite gender, meaning for male, female, and female, male, there is an attraction that is there. The right way of fulfilling this desire is via marriage and nikah. That's when a husband and wife can enter into that physical relationship and fulfill their desires, and as a result, the children are born, and that's how the human race continues to move forward. Again, we discussed all of this in a lot of detail in this class. For those who have missed, they can go back and look at it. Another action that we took out from this class was, when you enter a mosque, pray 2 rakahs tahit al-masjid. This is a prayer that you make every time you enter a mosque before sitting down. You pray 2 rakahs if you have time before farz. Obviously, if the farz has already started, you have to join the jamaat, and then and you can proceed. And another point that was very important is the reward for praying in congregation in mosque is 25 times. So for men, it is preferred that if they are working during the day, or if they are at home, or they're resting, whatever, that they walk and move towards the mosque. This has a lot of ajr. It is almost 25 times, as we read in the Sahih Hadith. So this marks the end of today's lesson. I will quickly say the prayer, and then if there is any comment, then we can take it at the end. Subhanallahi wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Purity belongs to Allah, and all praise be to Him. Purity belongs to you, Allah, and all praise be to you. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship besides you. I beg forgiveness from you, and I repent before you. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, my dear brothers. Inshallah, I will see you next week, same time. Any comments, any questions before we close today's class?